Good morning, Andy. How are you doing today? It's going to be pretty nice all week here. 70s and 80s. Got a little something special for us this morning. I think everybody's going to have some fun. We're going to find ways to enhance a Route 66 adventure. Yes, Miss Connie, another birthday, another one down the road. Good morning, Nolan. Yeah, Lulu, picture of a path. That's what I got started with here this morning. You hang right in there. I'm getting her all ready to go, and we're going to have some fun this morning and talk about ways to enhance a Route 66 adventure.
Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a two-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along.
Keith, Nolan, thank you. Angela, I think you're going to really like this morning.
America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Thank you, Angela. Well, it dawned on me this morning that the year 2021 is about half over. You know, I can't figure out how that happened. It seems like just last week we were bidding adios to the train wreck that was 2020. Lulu, no, I probably won't make that. Oh, the way time's zipping along, and of course, Nolan pointed out I got a birthday here, but the way time's zipping along, chances are I'll be dead a week before I even know it. This morning, like I say, I have something a little special. I'm going to be talking Route 66 detours. As special and as magic as a Route 66 Odyssey is, you can really add some zest with the shortest of detours and just a bit of a walkabout. Most of the adventures I'll be sharing today are within spitting distance of Route 66. I was going to share like Diamond Creek. This is the only road where you can drive to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It's accessed from Route 66 in Peach Springs, Arizona, but the reservation is still having some issues with COVID. So I thought we'd save that discussion for another day. Instead, we're going to start with Walnut Canyon National Monument. This is east of Flagstaff, Arizona. Getting the most out of this stop does require a bit of climbing, but the trails are mostly paved. And don't worry if you're not able to negotiate the endless sets of stairs. The visitor center is quite interesting itself, and the views from the visitor center, they're jaw-dropping. And there are some level paved trails along the rim of the canyons as well. There is a lot of scenic wonder in these canyons, but the focal point is the cliff dwellings. Some are not accessible, but they make great photo subjects as they're sitting nestled in the canyon walls. Others are right on the trail, making it easy to imagine life as it once was in these deep, shadowy canyons. Archaeologists date the villages built into the canyon walls to the period around 600 to 1400 AD. The culture has been called the Sinagua, from the Old Spanish name for the region, Sierra de Sin Agua, or mountains without water. Families that lived here farmed the canyon rims, growing small gardens of corn, squash, and beans, and hunted in the surrounding forest. And after the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad built a line into Flagstaff in the early 1880s, tourism in the area flourished. Walnut Canyon became a popular destination for sightseers as well as pot hunters with shovels and dynamite in their search for valuable artifacts. The theft and destruction alarmed local citizens and led to establishment of Walnut Canyon National Monument in 1915. Remnants of the canyon's past were then protected first by the U.S. Forest Service and then after 1934 by the National Park Service. Walnut Canyon is located just off Route 66 and I-40. And if you look in the upper right corner of this map, the Townsend-Winona Road, that's the original alignment of Route 66. So regardless of the Route 66 option you choose, the park's pretty accessible. Before continuing this morning's adventure, I want to give a shout out to Connie Eccles of the legendary Wagon Wheel Motel in Cuba, Missouri. This is no mere motel. It is the very essence of the Route 66 experience made manifest. It's a special place where the past and present blend seamlessly. In my honest opinion, I don't think a Route 66 adventure can be considered complete without at least one night spent at the magical Wagon Wheel Motel. For the next adventure, we're going to move east along Route 66 to Winslow, Arizona. Now, this is another adventure that requires the shortest of detours, a good pair of hiking shoes, and a sense of curiosity. If you're doing a bit of camping on your Route 66 trip, they have a nice campground as well. As a bonus, you don't have to drive far for dinner or breakfast. The Falcon restaurant that opened in the 1950s is just a few miles away, as is the amazing La Pasada. The name of this park is derived from a Hopi word for place of the little hills. Scenic wonders abound at this park. It's just a gorgeous area. But the focus is fostering an awareness about the people who once called this high desert home. This is enjoyable during the summer. Fall and spring are best. It can get a little warm. The state park is a center of research for the study of the late migration period of the Hopi, a period that roughly spans the period 1200 to 1300. Park facilities include a visitor center, an interesting museum, wonderful trails, and of course the campground, and there are covered picnic areas scattered throughout the park. So bring a picnic basket. Path of the Rattlesnake doesn't sound too inviting, but it is. It is a half-mile loop trail between the twin buttes within the park. It's a nature trail and an archaeological trail adorned with an array of petroglyphs. And there's another trail, number 2, is a half-mile paved trail that is actually wheelchair accessible. And it provides access to the largest of the park's archaeological sites that contain an estimated 1,200 to 2,000 rooms. This park is a great place for stretching the legs, savoring the stunning Arizona landscape, and for discovering a lost world. Next up, a little something special in Vega, Texas. You notice that I said stops. I have 2 to recommend. Aside from the renovated 1920s Magnolia oil station that's the primary focus for most Route 66 travelers. I'll start with Dot's Mini Museum. Eclectic. That's the only word for this collection that's stuffed into 3 small buildings. Another would be Tall Tales. There is a diverse array of antiques from tools to furniture. They have a chair that is supposed to be from Judge Roy Bean's courtroom. If you remember, Judge Roy Bean was law west of the Pecos, down in Langtree, Texas. He kind of made it up as he went. They have a U.S. mail saddlebag with bloodstains, and they have an impressive display of frontier-era pistols and more than 100 years' worth of old hats, chaps, boots, rigging, and riding tack. The Melbourne Price Museum is a real surprise. The diverse array of exhibits, the scope, and the size of the museum is not something you would expect in a town as small as Vega. It's housed in a century-old hardware store, and inside there's a beautiful mural depicting the Comanchero traders who once traversed the Panhandle. The museum is a non-profit organization that seeks to educate the public about the history and culture of the Oldham County area. And there's an operational 19th century printing press, a few cars for unique photo ops, and exhibits that chronicle the history of the area's agricultural and energy industries, Route 66, and much, much more. Highly recommend this stop. The next one I want to share is here in my neighborhood, the Hualapai Mountains in Hualapai Mountain Park. This is a pine forested oasis in a sea of desert just south of Kingman, Arizona. Part of the park was damaged by a wildfire a few weeks ago. We are dry in this country. I've been out a lot in the mornings, and even the cactus are starting to really show signs of severe drought. Anyway, a lot of the trails are now open again in the Hualapai Mountains, but use common sense. No smoking, no fires. Lots of stuff to see and do in this park. If you want to spend the night, there's rustic stone cabins built in the 1930s by the CCC. There's a nice RV park that's a cooler option for summer camping, as it's about 15 degrees cooler than Kingman, summer and winter. And then, of course, there's the Hualapai Mountain Lodge with motel and event center. The trails lead through the forest into scenic overlooks of the city and the desert far below, and to old mining sites. Great way to pass a day, summer afternoon. This is the quintessential summer stop when traveling Route 66 in western Arizona. Winter can be a challenge. The county keeps the road open, but it can be icy, and on occasion is actually closed because of snow. The Hualapai Mountain Lodge has great meals and a very special ambiance. They have a large picture window in the dining room, and elk and deer will often be grazing right outside. And in the parking lot, it's very common to see herds of elk. Makes quite a change. It's pretty easy to find. From the Dam Bar on Andy Devine Avenue, which is Route 66 in Kingman, it's just a hair under 13 miles on a paved road to the park entrance. But, especially if you're doing RVs and trailers, you should note that the road is steep in places. There are some sharp curves, not as bad as Oatman. It is a scenic drive, though, and that alone, to me, is well worth the trip. We're not going to wrap this up yet. We're only halfway through this morning's program, but I've saved the best for last. I have a scenic detour that connects Gallup and Grants in New Mexico. I want to share this with you. This is a great drive. In between is El Morro National Monument, a natural wonder and a tangible link to centuries of history. There's also an extinct volcano, lava tubes, an ice cave, and endless wow moments. And with another short detour, you can visit the oldest continuously inhabited community in the United States. And you also have the Zuni and Rama reservations with a few interesting cafes and some authentic trading posts. This rates quite high on one of my favorite Route 66 detours list. And that just happens to be the subject of a new book I just signed the contract for last week, and I'll be getting started on real soon. At the base of the towering monolith is a spring, a water hole. As a dependable source for water, summer or winter, this was an oasis for travelers. All along the base near the springs where the rock overhangs are hundreds and hundreds of signatures from travelers carved in the soft stone. Some predate European exploration. Some are unknown characters. Some are incredibly famous Spanish explorers. Lieutenant Edward Beale stopped here with his camel caravan. His signature is preserved here as well. In 1853, an expedition led by explorer Antonio de Espejo expedition resulted in the first historical record of El Morro. On March 11th, 1583, he recorded his stop here as at the pool of the Great Rock. There is a long and twisted and steep trail that leads to the summit. But at the top, the reward is more than just stunning views. The ruins of a large Pueblo is located on top of El Morro. It was vacant by the time the Spaniards arrived in the 1500s, and archaeologists surmise that these were the ancestors of the people who now live in the Zuni Pueblo and at Acoma. As you can see, this detour can be just a fun day trip. To get the most from the drive, you could easily spend 2 or even 3 days. And I haven't even told you about Acoma yet. This is a remote kind of country. You want to gas up in Gallup or Grants. And aside from camping, Grants and Gallup, that's your best options for lodging. El Malpi National Monument is billed as the land of fire and ice for good reason. And the promotion for the park is not referencing the snowy winters. This is higher country. You get up around 6,000 feet, a little bit higher in spots. This is a richly diverse landscape of old lava flows, sandstone spires, arches, cinder cones, lava tubes. And scattered among all these wonders are vestiges from centuries of people attempting to carve a living in what is just a stark land of harsh beauty. There is even a World War II connection. A 9 square mile area within the lava flows was used for aerial bombing target practice that began in 1943. The McCarty's cinder cone was intermittently used as a practice target. The range closed in April the following year, and then it was returned to the public in 1947. An unexploded ordnance was collected between 1953 and 1990, but it still turns up every once in a while. This is one of the few places in the United States where you find picturesque pygmy pine forests growing on vast lava fields of the Grants lava flow. And there are other unique ecosystems within along the scenic trails. Lava tubes and ice caves are always interesting hiking opportunities. To give you an idea of scope, if you'll look at the center picture towards the bottom, you can see 2 people standing there. The hike to the giant ice cave is not easy. In fact, it's rated as difficult as it courses through steep and rugged lava flows. The good news is that it's only about a 2-mile round trip. Here's the reward. Imagine you're hiking through this hot, baked, stony wilderness, and then you enter a cave with ice-covered floor, and at certain times of the year, icy stalagmites and stalactites. Quite a contrast. And near Bandera Crater is the Ice Caves Trading Post. In addition to contemporary Indian arts, there are exhibits of ancient artifacts. The store sells local Native American jewelry, pottery, rugs. There's a great rock and mineral shop and display, and a section with souvenirs. And there's a dining room with basics, cold drinks, hot drinks, snacks, ice creams, sandwiches, some groceries. The trailhead for the 2 trails, one to the ice cave and one up to the Bandera volcano, both start at the trading post. We're going to wrap this up this morning with a visit to Acoma. Archaeological evidence indicates that the Acoma Pueblo on the Mesa was established around the 12th century or possibly earlier. It was chosen because of its defensive position against raiders, and it has an access to water. Before modern times, access was gained only by means of a hand-cut staircase carved into the sandstone. Acoma Pueblo itself is comprised of several villages, including Acomita, McCarty's, Anzac, and the newer subdivision of Skyline. And as they have for centuries, the Acoma people dry farm in the valley and use irrigation canals in the villages closer to the Rio San Jose. The traditional foods that are planted there are beans, pumpkins, corn, chili, onions, and fruits like apples, apricots, peaches, plums, and cherries. And as they have for centuries, all of the sowing is done as a group. In 1598, Don Juan de Onante, Spanish conquistador, under orders from the King of Spain, invaded New Mexico and began staging raids on Native American pueblos in the area. Upon reaching San Juan Pueblo and Acoma, Onante had all the Native Americans moved to a central site. The Acoma fought back, and during the small battle that ensued, several Spaniards were killed. The Spaniards then scaled the rear of the mesa and brought up a small cannon in the village. It's a real dark chapter. After the battle, Acoma survivors were marched to the San Juan Pueblo. Children under the age of 12 were given to Spanish missionaries. Most of the rest of the tribe was sold into slavery. There is oral tradition and some historic records to indicate that Onante ordered the right foot chopped off each man of fighting age. He was later tried and convicted of cruelty to Indians and colonists and was banished from New Mexico. This history adds a somber note to a visit to the ancient city in the sky. Still, I really recommend a visit. The guided tours, last time I was there, was about $10. There's been a concerted effort to preserve culture from the pre-1589 invasion. The traditions are always oral, with the teaching of dance, music, art, theology, astrology, philosophy, and history. The Pueblo is open to the public only by guided tour. I should note that photography of the Pueblo and surrounding lands is restricted. Be respectful. Tours can be arranged. $10 camera permits obtained from the renovated Sky City Visitor Center at the base of the mesa. Videotaping, drawing, and sketching are prohibited. But this is really an opportunity to step back in time. And speaking of stepping back in time, I'd like to give a shout out to Angela Moreland at the Cactus Inn Motel in McLean, Texas. Dating the mid-1950s, this renovated little gem is a great opportunity to keep the Route 66 experience going at the end of the day. And don't forget, the wonderful Red River Steakhouse is within spitting distance. And speaking of taste treats, let me give a shout out to Victoria's Sugar Shack in Kingman, Arizona. They have an array of keto treats, if that's what you're into, as well as fresh breads and superb coffee that perfectly complement something as delicious as a raspberry cruffin, my particular favorite. And as we've been discussing road trips, may I recommend Route Trip USA if you're planning to scratch a Route 66 adventure off the bucket list? These folks are road trip specialists. And as a bonus, when you book a Route 66 trip, they offer a few ways to add something special. As an example, you can book a tour of Kingman, Arizona with me as your guide. My friends, once again, we're almost out of time for this week. I try to keep it at a half hour so I don't wear out my welcome. And if you need some road trip inspiring ideas, including signed copies of my books, well, check out our website at jimhinckleysamerica.com. Well, let's see. What do I have planned for next week's program? I am going to talk about a couple of my favorite things: good food and unique places to eat. Now, a lot of these are going to be Route 66 or near Route 66. But I've got a couple to share in places like Indiana and Michigan. So invite your friends. Let's make it a coffee party. Let's inspire some road trips. And let's work up